Michael, you don't get to talk in this first segment. I'll explain why. It's a very short segment. I'm Barry Farber, and, when the president is awarding a war hero the Medal of Honor, the hero doesn't speak. He stands there and lets the president do the talking. In exactly 1 week, I will have been on the radio for 53 years. This is the first time that any guest has written a list of questions, suggested questions when I come on the air. After 53 years, I finally have a list of great questions. They are worth waiting for. Michael, you're allowed to say hello or good afternoon or good evening or whatever. I want to read these questions you sent in while you stand there at parade rest. You understand?
Yes, sir. I'm standing at attention now, and I'm laughing because of that introduction. That is so funny.
No, this is the first. This is the first for me. You ready? Now, by the way, the field is makeover. Michael Christian is the founder, the CEO, the mystic mainspring of Manhattan Makeovers. Here are some of his suggested questions. What are the most effective shoes for women? Why is it a mistake for women to wear pants at work? Why are dresses so ineffective for working women? What's the one dress color that will mark you as a failure? What are the only 2 shoes that test well for men? What are the biggest image mistakes men make? What is the number 1 wardrobe mistake women make? Coming in for a landing, but I'm not through yet. What is the best thing for a saleswoman to wear? And then an attorney, about a doctor. Should women color their hair? Should men? Can personality faults be corrected with clothing? Can you boost your authority with clothes? Can eyeglasses boost your image? Is it necessary to wear a white shirt or blouse? Can you increase your income by changing your wardrobe? What did President Obama recently say about saggy pants laws? Michael, good writers generally know they're good. Did you have any special feeling about these questions as you drafted them?
No, I never in my wildest imaginings thought that anyone, let alone the legendary Barry Farber, would read the questions and then read them with such exciting skill. I mean, you're like another Marlon Brando to me.
Well, you've destroyed my Air Force on the ground. We're not going to get to all those questions, at least not in this, our first encounter. I got to take a good, long running start, because I don't think I've ever really done a show about makeovers. It's not Syria. It's not North Korea. It's a little bit out of our field. But if you never go out of your field, you're going to be a one-field personality. We're not going to settle for that. Michael Christian on our Newsmaker line, and we'll be right back with him after a very short commercial break. Tomas up there in his perch where he keeps this broadcast going worldwide in real time. I'm Barry Farber, back, as I say, after a very short commercial break. On our Newsmaker line, new friend of these microphones, Michael Christian. You may recognize some points he makes. You may have that feeling that you've been here before. He writes and sometimes teaches under the name William Kane, C-A-N-E. We're going to use the more traditional given name of Michael Christian. Michael, A lot of people are trashing Sigmund Freud because of his emphasis on things that change your life because of what happens when you were a child. I see striking things in my own life that were shaped with one lightning and thunder moment when I was a child, and one of them is right in your field. Most people will agree that good looks are preferable to mediocre looks, and mediocre looks are preferable to bad looks. I did not. I grew up literally hostile to good looks, and I remember why. I was 9 years old, and I was getting measured for a suit, and there was a newspaper in the tailor's workshop, and I was looking down at it. It was a very long word, the name of a country, Czechoslovakia. That should tell you how old I am. I was 9, and Hitler was threatening Czechoslovakia. And I said, Mommy, what is C-H-O? And S-L? She said, shut up and stand still. And that was a polarizing moment. At that moment, I decided I am anti-looks. I have made my choice. Did you ever meet a case like me, Michael?
Well, I have. In fact, Sigmund Freud himself said that he was disappointed that he wasn't more of a movie star appearance because his ideas were so meritorious that when people initially met him, they may not have paid him as much attention as he really deserved. And all his life, despite his genius, he always wished that he had more of the Cary Grant looks because he felt that this would draw more attention to his brilliant ideas.
May have done the opposite, but who knows? Anyhow, I'm going to suffer the wrath of an audience if I don't get to your questions, but my conscience will hurt if I don't do the customary courteous thing of letting you sort of sign the guest book by telling us a little bit about Manhattan Makeovers. And by the way, the website is manhattanmakeovers.com.
And thank you for the opportunity, because Barry, I have to say that when I initially started listening to you with my good friend Jim Thomas, we idolized you so much that we used to imitate you and take calls. We would talk to each other and make believe we were you taking calls. So it's such a thrill to be here and to tell you that what I'm doing now, and that is I'm helping people. My background is I'm an attorney, and I also am a former theatrical producer. I worked with a lot of makeup artists and hairstylists when I was working in theater, and I decided, well, why don't I use those skills to help attorneys, professionals? That was my first outing, and that broadened into helping doctors and other professional people, salespeople, and so on, bankers. And what we do is we help them with their wardrobe and their hair and their footwear. And we do it in a unique way, and I'm very proud that we're probably the only group today doing active research on what items of wardrobe will make these people more effective. We test everything: the color of the raincoat, the style and the color of the shoe, the style of your tie, the hairstyles that people use, the cut of the suit. All of this goes through a testing process before we make any recommendations to anyone. So we're quite confident that what we share with our clients will actually help them to succeed.
Okay, now that we've chosen up sides, played the anthem, stand by for the kickoff. I see no reason to play around with your work. Let's just go right down that list as I read it. What are the most effective shoes for women?
No question about this. In 20 years, the one piece of evidence that has stayed the same and not changed is that the basic pump, a closed-toe, closed-heel pump, and a heel should be no more than 2.5 inches, is the most effective shoe for a working woman. And that, we stand by that. There is no question about that. It should not be frilly. It should not have buckles on it. It should not have different patterns and colors. It should be a solid color, and that shoe will serve a woman well, very well.
Okay, moving on. Why is it a mistake for women to wear pants at work?
Now, this is the most controversial thing that we have said. I've been criticized in India, Australia, and the United States for making this statement by feminists. They are up in arms. Who is this guy? How can he say this? Don't listen to him, they say. They rebel against it. And yet, the research shows that there is a 6% of men who are threatened, and 53% are turned on by women in pants. And especially blue-collar workers will rebel against you and not listen to what you say. For an attorney, this is anathema. You cannot wear pants and have a successful discussion or interview with a plumber, a police officer, an electrician, or salespeople, and you will be challenged. And this is the effect of our research, and that's why we are very confident about telling women that they are better served by wearing anything other than pants to work.
All right, now, so you put pants down, no pun intended. The next question is, why are dresses so ineffective for working women? There's not much else left. Go ahead.
That is correct. And there is a spectrum, and it goes from the best to the worst. The worst is pants. The next worst is a dress. And the reason is because a dress has no jacket. And the jacket is the number one authority garment for men as well as women. If a woman takes off her jacket, then she has reduced her authority. And in our society, I'm just telling it like it is, but women generally have less authority than men in most situations, despite their profession. And therefore, to remove the jacket by wearing something that does not have a jacket, like a dress, is a big, big power mistake. And you're opening yourself up to being considered much less effective than you actually may very well be. The way to fix a dress, of course, is to wear it with a jacket.
I don't know that much about articles of clothing. Is it common to wear a dress with a jacket? Is that a radical step, or is that ordinary?
Oh no, Barry. That's very ordinary. Women do that all the time. That's not a big leap of faith. That's normal. But that's a good question.
We're not through having fun yet. When we get back together, we will proceed with the interrogation, strange interrogation. Here, the one being interrogated gets to write his own questions. But we only do this about once every 53 years, so don't get your hopes up unless you can write and understand your own craft as well as Michael Christian. We'll be right back. Okay, let's move on down the line with one of the most successful, deservedly so. You can tell from the way he writes and the way he speaks that his success is no accident. Michael Christian. I recommend going to his website. It is mixed. There's a lot to read and there's a lot to listen to. And you may gain thousands of dollars worth of knowledge, and I don't mean some philosophical abstraction. You may actually find in your pocket a lot more money because of what you will learn, not just by listening to Michael Christian here, but by going to that website, Manhattan Makeovers.com. Manhattan Makeovers.com. Okay, the jacket conveys authority. Now then, what's the one dress color This is incredible. What's the one dress color that will mark you as a failure?
The answer is red. And it's a counterintuitive answer because most women think of red as a very sensual and outgoing color. But the truth is, we did research and we put the same woman in a red dress and we asked people what they thought of her profession and whether they would hire someone like that. Then we put the same woman in a white dress and we asked the exact same questions. Well, when we asked them about the woman in the red dress, they thought that she was unemployed, and they refused to exceed that she might be hireable. Then the same exact woman on the same day wearing the white dress, yes, we think her, an accountant, a banker. These are the types of guesses they did, and it turns out that red. We don't know why, but we do know that if you're a woman and you wear a red dress, you will be perceived as a failure.
But you've already answered the next question. There's no explanation as to why. This is odd. I thought red, they even had a song about the lady in red. I never heard a song about the lady in beige or the lady in green.
That's right. It's very counterintuitive. And the problem with the fashion industry today is that they're basing many of their creations without doing any testing. In fact, they never do any testing. They'll just, use their creativity and they'll make something and then they'll put it on the market. And then people have to either, be successful or unsuccessful in it. We're just about the only group of people that are doing research to find out, is this color effective? We don't know why. I'm going to be honest. I don't know why this is the result, but that is the actual result, and we recommend that our clients never wear a red dress to work.
Do you let the jury know that you're testing for color here, or do you just keep it blind and test the effectiveness?
No, we always keep it blind, and we do not let them know, and we do not reveal because that would impair the objectivity of the answers. I wasn't trained as a fieldwork researcher, but I have contacted PhDs in sociology, and I've gotten pointers on them, and that would throw off the validity, they say. That's the technical term for it. If you let your subject know, that throws off the validity of the answer in the database.
Okay. Let's squeeze in one more before the next commercial break. What are the only two shoes that test well for men?
Well, now, I'm going to say this, and I feel a little hesitant to be telling a man who ran for mayor of New York the answer to this question. But
this town doesn't know what it's missing. By the way, remind me to tell you an election story. Go ahead.
Okay. Our political consultants have stressed that the only two shoes that are effective for men are the cap-toe and the wingtip shoe style. And the cap-toe, to describe it for people, it's a plain leather, and it has a line near the toes, about 3 inches back from the front of the shoe. And it's like a boot which has a reinforced toe. But it's not a boot, it's a dress shoe, and it is the most inoffensive shoe a man can wear, and the most successful. That's the cap-toe shoe. And the wingtip is a shoe that has little holes in it, and they're in a kind of a swirling amoeba-like pattern, and that's called a wingtip. That's a little less formal than the cap-toe, but also an effective shoe for a professional to wear.
Once I owned a small share. Are you old enough to remember the discotheque craze of the 1960s, 1970s?
Oh, of course.
I owned a small piece of a disco. Now, that's like Woody Allen being a Nazi general. I mean, it's completely unfathomable. I'm not that kind of guy. Stay right where you are. All leaves are canceled. I'll explain everything. I was not a discotheque kind of guy. Why did I own part of the discotheque? And it was probably the most popular one in Manhattan way back in the heyday. It just so happens that the owners, the real owners, majority owners, had a very successful discotheque downtown. And I happened to be very friendly with a man who owned a restaurant on Central Park South. And they wanted to split the ticket, make a deal with him where he had his restaurant for lunch and for dinner. But at 10 p.m., they went to the cash register and changed the tape. And strange lights went on and strange music blared forth. And then it became a discotheque. And merely for making the introduction, both sides gave me a little share. Why do I bring this up? Because I would have lost money on Michael Christian's last answer. Michael Christian, maybe the champion makeup artist in America. Makeup artist to the stars. What to wear, what not to wear, what color is advantageous, what color proves you're a failure, etc. If you've been listening, you get the point. Well, the owners, I would have bet that Michael would at least mention the color and what kind of shoes work for men. I would have bet big money, because I got it, that Michael would mention color, know this or know that. Michael didn't mention color at all. You had the wingtips, and help me out on the other one, Michael.
That would be the cap toe, and thank you for this
right.
lead-in into the color question.
Yeah, but anyhow, I remember the nickname for people the owners did not want in the discotheque. The code name, not much of a code, was brown shoes. People coming in from the American Midwest wearing brown shoes. And I remember on opening night, one of the majority owners sitting there, cupping his hands to his lips and yelling at his employees, "Don't let them in! Get them out of here!" And he was referring to the brown shoes. I want the Lord to take me if I'm lying to you. Now, does the phrase brown shoe trigger anything in your awareness?
Yes, it does, because the color of the shoe can reflect on whether it's going to be successful or not. And the brown shoe that you referred to is a style that many men use in the belief that they will be fashionable, or that they'll be like a model in GQ magazine. And you can see many men wearing beautiful suits, and they're wearing brown shoes. And this is not effective. If I can answer the question, the only effective color for men's shoes should be black.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, I understand that. And when I say I agree, I have a feeling that I haven't felt since a famous composer, conductor really put me in my place when I was a younger interviewer. I told him that his concert was very good, and he turned on me like a cobra. He said, "Young man, who are you in the musical world to tell me that my concert was good? The best you can do is to say, I enjoyed your concert. Young man, you've got to stop right there." So when I say to you, I agree with you. From 40 years ago, I feel shrunken back into my rightful place again. Let me just say, I found your advice intriguing and correct, at least by my standards. Now, moving along beyond the shoes, what are the biggest image mistakes men make? I think we could do an hour on this.
Yes, we could. The two biggest mistakes are they fail to comb their hair and they fail to shine their shoes. Successful businessmen always comb their hair and have shined shoes. Always. There's no question. For example, George Steinbrenner, the late owner of the Yankees, he was a very, very successful man. He carried around a comb in his back pocket. Before he met anybody for an interview, he would step in front of the mirror and make sure that every hair was in place. This is a lesson that any executive should take to heart. Before meeting anyone, just take a look in the mirror, and you would be surprised the errors that you may find upon a simple 30-second to 1-minute inspection of yourself.
This is so interesting. I grew up with the shoe shine imperative, but around the mid-'80s, I had the notion that by some sort of silent consensus, men had dropped that. There was no longer the emphasis on shine shoes. I always kept one of those rags, with plain canvas on one side and sort of a fuzzy other side. And I always did my shoes a turn or two. And I enjoyed wearing shined shoes. But I thought they fell away. Apparently, if you say so, the shoe shine is back.
No, Barry, you've hit on a very important point. There are exceptions to every rule. And in certain fields, there are exceptions to the shine shoe. And those fields include trial attorneys and politicians. And here's the reason. For example, there was an attorney, trial attorney in Florida recently, and his opponent in the courtroom brought a motion against him for having holes in his shoes and wearing frumpy old shoes. This guy was so savvy, he would stand at the bar with his toe on the ground, and all the jurors could see he had holes in the bottom of his shoe. And the purpose of this was to show that he was a down-home kind of guy, he was honest, and that he could be trusted. And President Obama was actually photographed with holes in the bottom of his shoes when he was running for office. And so there are times when this is to your advantage, and there are exceptions to every single rule, including the shined shoe. In some cases, it's going to be to your advantage to have that scruffy look.
I wasn't aware that President Obama got photographed like that, but he stole the material from a previous candidate. I guess you got to be my age to remember Adlai Stevenson.
Of course, Adlai Stevenson.
Yeah, he had a big hole in the bottom of his shoe. Not through yet, and for that I'm grateful. We'll be right back. I never hadn't thought of this in many decades. I'm grateful to Michael Christian. By the way, go to his website and you'll be grateful too. Manhattan Makeovers.com. I will not insult your intelligence by spelling Manhattan or makeovers or .com. But you remind me of the one shoe shine that I didn't know I could forget for 40 years. It was in Havana, Cuba, and I wasn't even watching what he was doing. I was sitting there in the chair studying Spanish. And when he was through, snapping, you know how they snap that cloth and make a noise?
Yes.
Indicating they're through with the shoe shine. I looked down, and I thought I was going to go blind. It was almost like looking at the sun without smoked glasses or dark glasses. It was such an aggressive, beautiful, penetrating shine. I just vibrated there. And I must watch that a little more carefully myself. I surrendered to the ethic of leaving shoes. I figure if the rest of the men are going to do it, I can certainly do it too. Now then, here, getting vicious now. Not even about halfway through, so we're going to have to make another date, Michael. Here's
okay.
Try this one. What is the number one wardrobe mistake women make? I should have done that right before a commercial as a cliffhanger, but go ahead.
The number one wardrobe mistake that women make, and this includes, professional women as well, is they attempt to wear shoes that are the same shade as their suit. And this is an error because it is more effective to wear a shoe that is 2 or more shades darker than your outfit. For example, let's say they're wearing a white outfit. They will try to wear the whitest shoes they have with it, but that does not will not work for them. They should wear a darker beige, a brown, even a black shoe is appropriate for a white suit. So women should keep in mind that the big mistake is trying to match the exact color to their outfit.
I'm going to tell you two election stories. You just reminded me. Election day, New York City. I went to vote. Now, mind you, New York is is a Democratic state. New York City is the most Democratic part of that state, and the Upper West Side of Manhattan is the most Democratic part of New York City. I went into the booth, primary, and I couldn't turn the little lever. And I leaned my head out of the booth, and I said, I can't turn this lever. And he said to me, "Are you voting Republican?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Yes." And he yelled out across the whole big voting room, he yelled, "We've got another one. We've got another." And he wasn't being funny. He was very serious. They had to make some kind of change in a normal district. They would look at your card and see if you were voting in the Democratic primary or the Republican primary. But they just got complacent because everybody was a Democrat. Apparently, I voted late in the afternoon. I was the second Republican voting. But to hear him yell, "We've got another one," really did not make me feel like part of a convincing political majority. Now, one question I wanted to ask before we quit. Once a man whose name is recognizable was going to run for office. He was very successful financially in the garage business. Garage, Manhattan, parking garage. Very successful, multimillionaire. And he asked me to come to dinner, we were friends, and give him advice on, how you begin. What is your toolkit, 1, 2, 3, running for office? And I sat there and I said, well, to begin with, do you know your downtown New York Democratic leaders? And he said to me, do you know the downtown garage owners? Now, study that. Is that interesting psychologically or not? He was angry that I had asked if he knows the Democratic leaders, which he has to know, the leaders of the Democratic clubhouses. And he hit me back with, well, how dare you ask me? I've invited you. You're not charging a fee. You're giving me political advice because we're friends. And you asked me question 1, and I attacked you. That's, do you know the downtown garage owners? So I want to ask you, Michael, people pay you big money for this advice. They're celebrities. They can afford it. But do they ever get angry when you say, no, this is an error, this is an error?
Yes.
I mean, they dress that way. That's their choice. You're impugning their fashion instincts.
Yes, they do get angry, and they reject my advice. Even though they're paying thousands of dollars, they will not do it. And they're shooting themselves in the foot. They're only hurting themselves by not listening to this because we have the evidence and the research to back it up. We're here for them. We're trying to help them. For example, I had an attorney, and she came in from I won't say what state, but it was outside of New York State, and she flew in for the purpose of going to our makeover for 3 days. She stayed in a hotel, and we saw her for 3 days. We shopped with her, and we took her into a shoe store, and she rejected our shoe advice.
Hold it. Wait. I'm glad you're not quite through. This is a good cliffhanger story, too. We'll be right back. Okay, she flies into Manhattan from the Carolinas or the Dakotas or the Wyomings. She knows it's going to cost a little money, more than a little. They give her advice. And pick it up from there, Michael.
Thank you. She came in wanting to buy the shoes that we recommended, but when she saw that the pumps we recommended had rounded toes, which is what the research shows is more effective, she just couldn't accept it. And she almost got angry, and she decided that she was going to assert her own sense of style, and she bought the ones with sharp toes. Our research unequivocally reveals that round toe pumps are 85% more effective than the sharp, pointy ones that are very pointy in the toe. And yet she rejected this advice. But almost all of our clients, I mean, it's almost laughable to say this. It's like we talked about Freud. Freud talked about resistance. Well, there is resistance in psychoanalysis, just as there is resistance, I have found, in image consulting. People are set in their ways. They want to do good. They want to improve their effectiveness at work and their success at work, and yet they do resist the research. They do. They try not to, but there's always this subtle resistance there that we have to overcome.
Well, we're all mice trying to become rats through bodybuilding, and we all have a different flight plan, a different agenda, and I would never, I know that I know so little of, I would obey everything you told me assiduously, even if you made it ridiculous, like some candid camera calisthenic, I would do it thinking, okay, this is the voice of authority. I remember when I first began to notice that looking sharp made a difference. I have not found the total secret yet, and I'm not angling for a free consultancy. I'm beyond that. But I would love to know what kind of difference can you expect? I know what kind of difference to expect if you speak another language, if it happens to be the right language for what you're aiming for. I don't know what to expect from being effective at makeover.
Well, I have the answer, and I want to tip my hat to the father of image consulting, John T. Malloy, for this information. In 1975, he did something that was unheard of. He started to analyze the effectiveness of salesmen and based on what they were wearing. And he determined and discovered through this research that salesmen would increase their sales if they wore a blue jacket and beige pants, if they wore a certain kind and style of necktie. And through one man after another, he would test this over and over, and he came down to the determination that there was no question that you could improve the sales potential of any of these professional salesmen by giving them the correct outfit. So that's one of the things that you can expect.
Whatever happened to the necktie? My grandparents were all immigrants from Russia. My parents born in America. And it was considered a crime, a felony, to leave home without a necktie. I remember the first time, it was in the late 80s, I made a tour at 3 speaking engagements, seminars, LA, San Francisco, San Diego, and I didn't take a tie with me. Can you do it in 30 seconds?
A tie, yes. A tie is extremely important. It is the number one symbol of a man's status. He must wear a tie to an interview and to the job. A tie.
Thanks, Michael. Michael, I got to go, but with your cooperation, we're going to meet again, pal. Thanks. You're a delight.